Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Game-Based Learning in the World Language Classroom. The why, the what, and the how. We're on section 3 of my book, The How, and I'm giving you concrete games that you can play in your class so that your students can be applying the language. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. I would love to talk games with you. I'm at studio-nemo.com, the Minecraft Education Ambassadors, or the Minecraft Teachers Lounge, or the Duolingo Educators Network, or comment right here on YouTube. And we are on chapter 12 of my book still. We're talking about card games that are going to help you teach vocabulary that you need to drill and kill. Okay, so in our previous episode, we talked about a memory matching game and we talked about $20,000 pyramid and how you can adapt them for your classes. This one I'm going to keep a close eye on the time because I might split it into 2 videos if it runs long. All right, so here's the deal. I don't like to spend all my time doing scut work. Neither do you, right? So you've made flashcards for Go Fish, and you've used them for $20,000 pyramid, or maybe you made them for $20,000 pyramid, you're using them for Go Fish. What else can you do with those cards so that you get double duty out of them? You could have a sentence competition, okay? So you just have students randomly put the cards down and make sentences with the words that come up. Even if they're just a bunch of nouns and the students are connecting them together, they can make crazy stories, they can make great sentences, and you could say, how many can you come up with, and give them points. And again, when I give points, I give like fake points. Students think it's a competition, they think it's a lot of fun. Maybe I'll give stickers out like once a month or something. So I've named my table groups. This is Class Dojo, and I named my table groups after different countries. And then I just swap out the signs for my Spanish class, and there's different Spanish countries. And for my Japanese class, there's different prefectures. And then the students get points put in there, and then maybe in a month and a half, I say, oh, Quebec, you're the winner. Come get your stickers, come get your candy, whatever. So each table group is about 6 people, because I have about 30 students in my classes. 33 in one, but it's okay. All right, SWAT is pretty easy. Your cards are not going to last long. Let me just warn you on that. But you basically have the students put the cards down face up in a big puddle in the middle of the table. And you can either, like when I'm teaching hiragana or katakana, and this is great because sometimes they get put down upside down, and so the students really have to think about what orientation things are in. Call out a syllable if I'm doing hiragana, katakana, call out a word, or generally what I wind up doing is I start a sentence and have the students find the end of the sentence, or I have a sentence like as a close sentence, CLOZE, where it's a fill in the blank, and I have the students find the word that fills in the blank. That works the best. But basically, whoever grabs the card first gets the point. Hanafuda. I like to play a baby version of Hanafuda, especially with my Japanese classes, and I'm going to explain what this is. This is a game that dates from the 1100s at least. Still hugely popular. I mean, here's an anime where they're making fun of it. Still a hugely popular card game. Let me walk you through a baby version of how to do this if you're interested. Okay, so you've got your cards, and some cards are the first cards and some cards are the second cards, okay? So you could have a subject on one card and a predicate on the other if you want. You could have a subject on one card, conjugated verb on the other. You can have a word on one card and a picture on the other. You can have, this is what I like to do, like a conversation. So like a waiter's question on one card and the customer answer on the other, or the salesman at a store on one card and the customer trying to buy electronics on the other, or the boss on one side and the employee on the other, whatever you want to do. And then to make it more like Hanafuda, we could have a song lyric or a poem on one and the next song lyric on the other. Now, Hanafuda is normally done with really, really old poetry, and my students just aren't familiar with that old poetry, but they do know theme songs to their popular shows, so song lyrics work great. All right, so what you do is you have 8 cards face up in the middle of the group, or usually 2 players, but it could be more than 2. Okay. Each player is going to get 8 cards on their own. The player is going to look at their top card. Does it match any of the 8 cards in the middle? If it does, they get the match. But if none match, the player has to discard that top card. Okay? And the player has to add a card to the middle. Does it match anything the player has? Nope. Okay, it's the next player's turn. Gets going pretty fast when they know what they're doing. All right, so anytime you need cards, you can grab this deck of cards that you have already made and throw it into any pre-existing game. You can play Pictionary. You can play Scattergories. You can do Taboo, which is kind of similar to $20,000 Pyramid, I think. You can do Trivial Pursuit. And if you want to help me, I've been working on a Trivial Pursuit type game that would help the students follow the GLAD sentence patterning chart. So if anyone wants to help me with that, I would love to bounce ideas off of you. So let me give you an example of this, okay? You can print up a game board, you can have your students design a game board, and use the cards for that. So one time, we were reading this old fairy tale. Basically what happens is the kind girl whose mother hates her, she goes off to get water, and she's nice to this old lady, and the old lady turns out to be a fairy. And the old lady says, "Oh, I'm giving you a gift. From now on, whenever you talk, a rose or a precious gem is going to fall out of your mouth." What a great boon to have from a fairy, right? Well, she goes home and she apologizes to her mother for being late. And of course, diamonds fall out of her mouth. And her mother's like, "What happened?" And she's a good girl. So she tells her mother. And her mother tells the favorite daughter, who's mean, "Oh, go down and go get a boon from that fairy." Okay, so the mean daughter goes down. And the fairy, of course, gets mad at the mean daughter. And the fairy makes it so that whenever the mean daughter talks, a toad or a bug falls out of her mouth. Okay. So I was thinking about that because we were about to get to the climax of the story. And I woke up in the morning and I was just thinking about it, the way you do over breakfast, and you come up with your best ideas at that time, right? And so it seemed appropriate to me to print up snakes and ladders boards. Okay, so I added squares for draw a card. And so anyway, it took me like 30 seconds to make this decision that I was going to do this day. It took me 30 seconds to find a free clip art of a snakes and ladders board. It took me 45 seconds to add the text "draw a card" to 10 of the squares, and it took me 2 minutes to print 10 copies. All right, and I grabbed the dice and the cards. That took another 15 seconds. So for 3 minutes of my time, 4 minutes of my time, maybe 5 minutes of my time, the students got extra practice with the cards that I had initially put a lot of time and effort into. So I think I have on the next. I also printed up some scaffold for the students, and I did this on the fly as the students were playing. Okay, but this took me 5 seconds to try and decide between these two boards that were both free, and then I just wrote in these squares, draw a card, and I draw a card, and the students absolutely loved it, and they got extra practice with the game, and they were thinking about the story that we read at the same time. This one, oh my gosh, this one I literally pulled out of my posterior. I still have time to talk about this. Okay, so there were actually cameras in my room filming me, and my students had gone through everything that I wanted them to go through, and I wanted to impress the camera people, and my students still wanted to have fun, and they still needed practice with some stuff. And I had previously printed up all these Duolingo boards. With the help of Duolingo, we had designed some boards in the Duolingo Educators Network. And so I grabbed 4 decks of cards for this. And, I've got all these little game play pieces all over the room, and I've got dice and everything. But I wrote on the board really quick, if you land on Oscar, you're going to pull this card. If you land on Zara, you're going to pull this card. And I had I just grabbed a blue deck of cards, and let's say that Falstaff was, I don't have a purple here, but okay. So I just grabbed 4 decks of cards that happened to be stuff we were working on, or stuff I knew that they needed to refresh their memory on. And I just randomly put up the colors here, and then I left it like this so that I could change it. Okay, anytime I want, I could say, okay, you're doing that. So like the next class came in, and then I gave them the rules: land on a square, draw a card, make a sentence with that word. That's all I said because I hadn't prepared anything. I just said make a sentence with that word. They were making the kookiest sentences, and I said if everyone at your table agrees it's a grammatical sentence, keep the card. Okay, because I find that if I could get the students policing each other, they're more invested in staying in the target language. And then I put some, as a student started playing, I wrote these scaffolds up on the board, and this is a huge hit. Oh my gosh, they love it so much. They get lots of practice. They get lots of practice making sentences. They get lots of good social, emotional learning as they talk to each other. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to play games. Reverse charades. I know I'm over time a little bit. I talk about reverse charades in chapter 10, so you can go look that up. And I'm going to pause here and I'll talk about sink or swim in the next video, okay? So thanks for joining me. Hope to see you in the next video.